My name is Jeffrey Brown. I am a freshman here at IUPUI. I'm currently double majoring in history and in secondary education in the hopes of becoming a high school history teacher. History, I think, just plays such a vital role in, it's going to sound dramatic, but the preservation of civilization, really. And historically, Indianapolis has been, it says it on the signs, it's the crossroads of America. In preserving that and having that to look back on, to use, to look forward to, just plays such an important role in how we shape ourselves as not just a society, but as a culture. And Ransom Place is a shining example of that. You can't hold on to the history too much because while it is important to learn from our mistakes, that's why we study history. That's absolutely important. That's why we have our museums, and that's why we have our history classes and history majors. But the reason we do that is so that we can move forward.
My name is Brad Wilby, and I'm the Administrator for Long-Range City Planning for the Department of Metro Development at the City of Indianapolis, and my job is to plan, think about the future of our city. For me, design matters a whole lot. And so as, you know, many of the neighborhoods that we work on that are challenged have had much of their built environment destroyed over time. And so it's as disinvestment has happened, as people have moved out, as businesses have moved out, buildings have fallen into disrepair, and then, you know, many of them eventually come down by one reason or another. There are places that are gentrifying. The way that we want to focus on that is not by holding people down and making sure that they can stay down, but in that neighborhood, it's making sure that they can participate in the growth. And so that the people that were there in the worst of times can be there in the best of times because we have improved their life, not just maintain the status quo of their financial situation.
Revitalization can be a detriment. When talking moving forward, you have to do it gracefully and you have to do it with great caution, because you can push. When you're talking about revitalization, you're talking about, most of the time, you're talking about money. You're talking about taking this area that might be struggling or might be forgotten when you're talking about a citywide scale and pushing it forward economically. Sometimes people can be left behind. Sometimes people can be forgotten in that. And I think that's a tragedy. I think you have to absolutely, when you're talking about bringing in this young movement and expanding and growing the buildings around you, you have to make sure that those people who have not just grown up here, but are the roots, and they're the thing that got this place established in the first place. They are the heart and the soul of this area and of the community, and you can't just cast them aside for the sake of a couple college students who can afford it. You can't just leave them behind. It's their space, it's their area. So you have to find a way to walk the line of pushing forward and remembering.
I don't know that we have any data on move outs. I know that we have very nice houses that are occupied by middle to upper income persons who live next door to a vacant house there, for sure.
I mean, our goal is that poverty is not the reason someone can't stay in a neighborhood that's improving. And so that's an example where we have a community partner, Southeast Neighborhood Development, down there, and their job has been doing affordable housing. And so we do have housing affordability preservation activities going on. It's just not something you see on a scale of what's happened in the commercial corridor. But if you go back into the neighborhoods, you will see some places where we have restored homes. We built new constructed homes that fit in, that are to maintain affordability. And the research shows that it's economic instability that makes people move. The lower and lower income you are, the more and more you move, regardless of what your neighborhood is. So economic instability is one of the key things we need to focus on. And so hopefully we'll see through our investments, through our incentives, also through the natural progression of jobs that follow people, you will find more jobs accessible to more people in the core of our city, where some of our most challenged neighborhoods are.
We're using resources to provide job training to get to that people growth side of it, so that we have a skilled workforce who can fill those jobs as they become available.
Fall Creek Place is one of our early major revitalization efforts. Most of that land was vacant. It had been demolished over the period of decades. The remaining historic homes that were there were actually strategically moved around so that the neighborhood maintained its historic character. They were restored by our partners at Indiana Landmarks. But it's very important that we maintain the physical history, because that's what you see.
The house it's fairly old. It's from the 1910s, and this is a historic neighborhood, so that's kind of the status quo around here at Ransom Place. The house has been modified. It has been modified to the extent of my knowledge twice. Once in the 1930s, and the previous owners, I believe that they updated it back in the 1990s. I know some of the houses that have had historic people live in them will have signs as kind of a commemorative gesture to what came before. And at the beginning of the street, there is a big plaque and some nice pictures that just kind of give a little bit of backstory. So just to preserve what came before and cement it. I do think that the history has been well preserved in this neighborhood. I mean, through the little gestures that they have and through the signs. I think they're doing the best that they can, because they can't regulate it too much, because you don't want to turn it into a museum. It's a neighborhood that needs to be lived in, and you always have to look towards the future, but I think they're doing enough.
Preservation professionals are passionate that design should be of its time. And so we would not want to come into a historic neighborhood where the lots are pretty narrow, the windows are pretty tall, there's usually a front porch, and put in a ranch style house, which is very wide, which is very low, which has very fat windows. We believe that there are ways, by following the basic massing, the basic pattern of neighborhoods, that you can mesh historic and modern pretty beautifully. And so, whereas a streetscape enhancement where we put in public art and street furniture and street lights and make it cool might work in Broad Ripple, when you get to some other neighborhoods, it's not that that's important and that people don't deserve that. Is that the best investment that we could make to change people's lives when they're worried about stray bullets or feeding their families tonight? Probably not. And so we're trying to be a little more nimble on the types of investments we make that are relevant to the true needs of neighborhoods. And so some have place-based investments, some have place and people-based investments. And so it's being relevant, meeting neighborhoods where they're at.